Hi everyone! Today I'll be going over some of the stuff you will need to get Julia up and running on your local machine. I will be going over the following 5 items. First of all, the Julia installation, just brand new installation on your Mac. The second item is how to install one of the most popular plotting libraries, and then I'll go over Atom, which is an IDE that you could use for Julia, and it's one of the most popular ones being used in Julia. Then I'll go over IJulia, which is, if you're familiar with Jupyter notebooks, that's essentially the Julia equivalent for that. And then I'll end with JuliaBox, which is a way to run Julia on the web, which is a free service, and we'll see it towards the end of this video. Okay, so let's get started. This is a brand new laptop that I'm literally just starting to use right now. So I haven't used it before. There's no Julia installed on it. So we'll download all this, all the information we need together. So Chrome, julialang.org, then download v1.0. We'll go for the Mac option, show in Finder, wait for it to finish downloading. Almost there. Great. So let's add it to applications. And let's great. So now we do have Julia. Let's do just a couple of quick checks. You can run such things. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Sum of rand of 10. I'm just creating a vector of size 10. I'm getting the sum, just random things. You can do things like version info, and you will get your version info. Great, so now we have Julia. That's the first thing. There are ways to be able to run Julia not from the applications, and that has to do with setting up your path and whatnot. I'm sure, well, hopefully you can figure it out if you're interested, or just ping me, I'll help you with that, but that's not the focus here. Okay, so that was number 1. Done with it. Let's go to plotting. So here I will be doing the Plots.jl library. So if you go here, you can search for Plots.jl, and that's the package I will be installing. The way I will do it is via the following. I had to type this character for this to work. So if you just type a square bracket, this is what you will get. Type add plots py plot py call latex strings. What I'm doing here is essentially adding all of these packages. It's going to take a bit of time, just because we're adding all of these for the first time ever on this computer. You won't need to do this every time, so that's the advantage. Great, everything finished installing. Now, the next thing we will do is, so if we hit backspace or delete on your Mac, we should type using Plots, and that's essentially saying we are now going to use the package. These things take a little bit of time when we're running them for the first time ever, so just bear with it. Great, so again, it's done. The next thing we will do is set up the backend. I'm glossing over some of the details here, but I'm assuming the goal is to get things up and running. So if you are interested about the details, I recommend reading more documentations for either the plots package, if you're interested in more details about plotting, or just the Julia documentation. Great, now we have a plotting backend set up. The next thing we will do is just plot some random data. So plot of, actually let's do just the fake, so plots, the package has some interesting, not so interesting actually, fake data of whatever size you want. So let's say 100 by 5. Okay, great, here we go. We have our first plot. Just to give you an idea, you can plot other things. Let's say the x values are 1 through 10, and then the y values are 1 through 10, just a linear relationship. And as you can see, things would become faster afterwards. So like if I'm running this for the second time, it's much faster. So it's just the first time that's taking longer, and that's because that's accounting for compilation time. Again, glossing over some details, but I'm guessing the goal here is to get things up and running. All right, so next, so we're done with plotting. Oh, sorry, I meant command B. Okay, Atom. So let's go and get Adam. Well, yeah, application. Great. So here we will download Adam for Mac. Just downloading, show in Finder. Great. So, well, it depends on your preference. You can also move it to applications. So now I'm just going to launch it and go from there. Okay, so let's see what happened here. Okay, so we have Adam here. The first thing we're going to do is go to settings, the preferences. Okay, I want to do install a package actually, which is already here. And then open installer, and then the package we'll be looking for is Uber-Juno. Yep, that's the one. Install. Perfect. That's good news. Use standard layout? Sure, yeah. You can choose to use a different layout if you prefer. So this is the REPL. So let's see if this is going to work. Okay, perfect. So it is working. So 1 plus 1 is again working. Version info is again working, hopefully. Great. Now the next thing you can do here is, so let me get rid of the, okay, sorry, so I'm used to a different Mac. So let's do this. So let's get rid of settings and get rid of all of these things. And so here's your editor. So this is where your editor is. Depending on your personal preferences, this is a place where you can customize most of these things. I personally prefer just to have an editor and a REPL. You can choose to have whatever you prefer. What's interesting here is that you will find indentation and coloring of the number of the words you will write according to Julia. So let's write just a very random function. So function, my first function of x, y. and then we will do z is equal to x plus y, and then just type z here, which will return z. You can also do return z. So let's save this. Let's save this in, I don't know, where we do desktop. Well, actually I shouldn't have done that, so where's prepare? Alright, let's do this. Then save it, desktop, first Julia file, and then the extension for Julia files are .jl, so save. Great, so now you see it has all the coloring needed, and whatever you keep typing here, it's going to work. Let's see, let's do function, oh, and autocomplete as well, so that's great. Find my average, or find my average of x, which is, let's say, a vector of integers, or let's do float 64. Just very boring stuff, but it's okay. Average is equal to mean of x, and then average. Perfect. So now we can check where we are, and then you can cd to desktop, I think. Great. Oh, the way I did this shell command is by hitting this character. So if you hit semicolon, you can switch to shell command. We can now include a file. So first JuliaFile.jl. So now we have all the functions we need. We have your workspace here as well, so you can see which functions you can access. So let's do t is equal to rand of 100, which is just 10. So this is just a random vector of size 10. And now if I do find my average is now a function of t, mean is not defined. Yeah, because this is 1.0 and mean is not there. Let's see. Now it's in a okay, so now it's in stats. Okay, cool. So I should do, it's all fixable. So if I do mean of t, this will not work. If I do using statistics, let's try now. Perfect, so it works. So if we add this, well, now we don't need to add it because we already added it to REPL, but for future use, in case we're starting a fresh new REPL, we will just put it here because the mean function is in this sub package essentially. So if we do this again, include, and now if we run find my average of t, it's just going to work. Perfect, so now we wrote our own first file and we ran it on Juno. Perfect. Next up. So we're done with this. The next thing is the Julia counterpart of Jupyter Notebooks for Python, if that's a thing you've done before. So the way we want to do this is to add the package. So again, I'm switching via this character. Is to add the IJulia package. So add IJulia. Great. So now we have the package. Let's do using IJulia. Okay, great. So now we have IJulia. The next thing we want to do is start a new notebook. That's how we do it. And this will essentially show us something of this form. You don't need the internet to be running this, but it's going to open on your browser. We're going to start a new Julia 1.0 notebook. And the idea of a notebook is that it's essentially running in cells. So if you are wanting to chunk your code up into separate cells, or you're demoing something, Python or Jupyter Notebooks could be a very good place to show these things from. So let's do just our standard 1+1. So to run things on Jupyter Notebook, you need to hit Shift-Enter. So Shift-Enter essentially runs the current cell you're in, and then creates a new one, or moves to a new one if a new one already exists. Like here, a new one already exists, so we'll just move to the next one. You can run essentially everything. Version info. You can run multiple lines together, so x is equal to 1 plus 1, y is equal to x plus 10, and then let's do c is equal to 11 minus y, whatever. And then the last thing that's going to show is this very last line. So the result that's going to show after the cell is the value after execution of the very last line. If you want to suppress that result, you can always have a semicolon at the very last, as the very last line. It shows like nothing had actually ran here, but things did run. It's just that they're not showing. You can put the semicolon here or there, it doesn't matter. But all of these values do have values now, even though they're not showing. So if we do this here again, you're not going to see it. So the semicolon is just suppressing the output, that's all. So great, that's it about notebooks. So you can actually also save, you can change the name. So my first notebook. And then, so this was here, you will see that wherever it's opened, it's going to be saved. When we first opened it, we could have gone to a different place, like, I don't know, desktop or whatever you want to work. So yeah, that's it. So let's just close this, and then yeah, this would still, yeah, you can still, yeah, this is not going to open because Jupyter Notebook is not open now, but you can just start it again. And so, okay, it starts a new one. So you can just access whatever you just did before. Great, so IJulia notebook, that's done. JuliaBox, I think that's the easiest way to run Julia, except that like it has the inconvenience that it's on the web, or well, sometimes it is a convenience. Depends on how you see it. So JuliaBox. So JuliaBox, you can log in with any of these services. So I'll log in with Google, and so let's see here. Next, and then, okay, I think I have my password correct. Good. No. It has a very similar interface actually, except that there are things that are already there. So we'll see in a second. Well, my account had already had things in it, so well, that's another convenience. I've written these on a different computer, and now I can just log into JuliaBox from any other computer and be able to access them. Again, this is taking a bit of time in the beginning, but won't be bad later on. Great. So again, as I told you, usually you will log in and find some of these things, as in like tutorials and stuff like that, in your tutorials folder, I think. So you'll have some default things in there, but you can also start your own thing. So 1.0 is apparently not on JuliaBox yet, which is surprising. I just realized that. But yeah, you can do essentially the same things. Version, info, and these will show the result in a second. The kernel appears to have died. Okay, so these things happen sometimes with JuliaBox. Okay, just to save some time, there's nothing substantially different that I would do here. It's just the same process. I would normally just restart the whole thing. But yeah, JuliaBox, that's about it for JuliaBox. And yeah, so that, I think all of this is done. One thing is, I mentioned in the very beginning, so let's see. I've mentioned in the very beginning that you might be interested in having Julia added to your path. So if you do want to do that, so let me see. So here it won't be for sure. Oh, I think I need, okay, yeah, exactly. So if you type Julia here, this is not going to be working. So the way to do it is, if you do want to see how to do it, I think there's something under GitHub, and then go, let's see, basics goes, okay, so this goes back from 0.3, but the same process still applies. So if you do want to follow it and see how you set up your path, you can just do this. So it's essentially this line. Anyway, I guess that's it. I hope you enjoyed this.